Welcome to the Unique Mind Podcast. I'm Dr. Yuni, a licensed psychotherapist, founder of Unique Counseling, and a passionate advocate for mental and emotional wellness. This is your space to explore the transformative power of therapy, with a special focus on demystifying hypnotherapy and healing. Each episode will dive into topics that challenge limiting beliefs, unlock the mind's full potential, and empower you on your journey to self-discovery. So take a nice deep breath, open your mind, and let's get started. Welcome, everyone. Today we have Laurel Kassor. She's an astrologer, and I've had the pleasure of actually working with her personally. She helped me through a little rough time last October, I believe. And so it's a pleasure to have Laurel here today. So Laurel, tell us a little maybe about what got you into astrology and a little bit of what you're maybe working on now.
Yeah, so I found astrology the way that it finds many of us. I was moving through a really dark night of the soul kind of moment. I was uh, almost 21, not quite 21 yet. I was very fresh out of the first serious relationship of my life. It was a 3-year long distance relationship. We were long distance the whole time, and I still had managed to completely lose myself in that relationship. I had also like freshly gone away to college, and was in the relationship when I had started college. It was a whole thing. I had really learned a lot about my negative relational patterns in the course of that first relationship. And so at the end of it, I really did not feel like I knew who I was anymore. I knew my name was Laurel. I knew my birthday was April 8th and that made me an Aries. And so I felt like that was honestly like the only shred of like actual like thing that I had to hold on to because I had lost all my sparkle, I had lost all my shine. I used to be like fun and bold and dynamic and an Aries, like in even in the obnoxious ways. And at that point in my life, I was just so hollow and so unalive that I just kind of grabbed to anything I could to remind me of who I was. I was like, I used to identify with that. Like, let me see if I can kind of jumpstart my own system here. And so, as as fate would have it, I ended up like 3 days later being introduced to the person who would become kind of like my first spiritual teacher. I didn't know it at the time, of course, though. But I met with them and I had mentioned that like I had just started like getting a little bit more into astrology, like literally just started. And he said, "Oh, you're an Aries. That's cool. What's your moon sign?" And I said, "What's a moon sign?" And he was like, "Oh, go home, look it up. You'll love it." And so I did. And when I did, I found out my moon was in Aquarius. And it was a game changer for me. I had always identified with the Aries stuff, but it didn't fully, and I knew that like the whole time growing up, I knew it didn't fully capture all of like what I was as a human, as a person. But finding out that there was not just a sun sign, but a moon sign and a Mercury sign and a Mars and a Venus and all of them, everyone has its own little signature and its own little personality. It was mind blowing to me. I finally had words and vocabulary and frameworks for parts of myself that had always existed, but I didn't know how to connect with, you know? And so, fun fact was that I learned that Aquarius moons are a little less emotionally oriented. They're very analytical. They're
Wow.
hyper intellectualizing feelings and emotions. And so I was always looking for patterns and things my whole life. And I was like, holy crap, this makes so much sense. This makes sense about like why I have such a hard time regulating my feelings, like being
Mhm.
able to access those gooey bits, like it's not the default mechanism. And so I started to learn the language that helped me to understand the default mechanisms of like my personality. Like, oh, this is how I am. Okay. And that was my first like impression of astrology. It is many people's first impression. Like, oh, I'm like this because of this. It wasn't until like a long time of getting like seriously into it, because just finding out one piece of astrology leads to about 12 more 12 more questions, and then each of those answers leads to about 12 more, and so like you just start to fall down the rabbit hole. And so eventually, not very long into like oh my god, astrology is so cool, I became what I very affectionately refer to as an astro hoe. And I was like that girl, that would it's only 10:30 p.m. Your mom's definitely not asleep yet. Like, call her, ask her what time you were born. Like, she'll know. Like, that was me. I like had the whole back of the house, front of the houses. I worked in restaurants, so I had like everybody's birth charts. Like, I was the one who piped in and was like, well, Mercury's in retrograde, everyone, and was obviously so super annoying to all of the people in my life, I'm sure. But I was so excited about astrology. I couldn't not. And because I am autistic, ADHD, hyperfixations, baby. I mean, oof, I was annoying myself and I still couldn't turn it off. I started to realize that all these patterns in my life, I was like, oh, the birth chart, dang, that sucks. I guess I'm just like this forever. And I was like, no, but that doesn't make sense to me. I have free will. I have choice. I can make decisions. I have a perception. I have a way of switching between observation modes, like, so I really started to use it as a tool for self-reflection. It will very intellectually rigorous, highly complex and nuanced, but oh my gosh, I couldn't get enough. And I used it to help me understand me better. And then immediately was like, holy moly, I got one of these charts. Everybody's got one of these charts. Everyone's got one of these secret hacks. If I can, and here's my neurodiversity showing, if I can figure out how to read people's blueprints, then I can figure out how to interact better with them. I can figure out what makes them tick. I can be of more service as a daughter, as a worker, as a friend, as a partner. Eventually, I became a coach. And so obviously that became a big part of my work. But I immediately was like, holy moly, this is like everything. Everything is in here. I did not know the extent to which it went at that time, though. So we'll fast forward a ton of years, like 10. I kept on loving astrology, but my other aspects of my life were not going the way had been. I'd been told that it was supposed to go. I went to college, I dropped out. I went back to college, I got the degree, I applied for a million jobs, I got none of them. I got to the final round of most of the ones that I would interview for, and always went a different direction every single time. Every single time. I had gotten my degree in public relations. My minor was in English, and I was like, I just got to figure something out. And so I was like, I've got to give astrology a shot. But I was so scared to do so, and I didn't know anything about business, and I kind of just really didn't do the work at that point, and I let my fears get the best of me, and I kind of like I half-assed it. I was like, let me just like make one announcement to my Facebook community that like you could pay me to do your astrology now. And like I actually had like 3 or 4 people take me up on that, but I was too scared to self-market. I was too scared to put myself out there. I was too scared to ask for money. Like there was a lot of worth issues that had come up. There was a lot of, I don't know. I'd been doing astrology for 10 years and I kept telling myself, you don't know enough. You're not good enough. There's still so much more that you could be better at, right? And so I kind of crippled myself. I definitely self-sabotaged that first attempt at becoming a professional astrologer. And so in 2022, I said, fuck it, we ball. And I took a huge leap of faith, and I told the universe, I don't know what I'm doing. You need to send me some answers. Please send me some help. I really want to do this. I'm all in, but like I need some guidance. 3 days after that, I found a free 4 day, or I'm sorry, it was a free 5 day boot camp hosted by a community called the Energetic Alignment Academy. And they were pitching their professional community, but it was to teach spiritualists and teach kind of like healers how to monetize their medicine. That was actually the name of the program. You got a gift, you got something to give, you got a calling, but you don't know anything about anything. You don't know how to construct a business. We're entrepreneurs, we're coaches, we will help you do it. And so I was like, wow, these people are speaking my language, because they talked about the power of bringing in divine feminine and divine masculine. Like they were speaking the spiritual language right from the get. And I was like, fuck yeah, my people. So joined that community. It was a $6,000 investment. That was like putting a gun to my head. I had $600 in my bank account at that time when I signed up and I made the first payment. I think the exact number was $639 I had in my bank account when I committed to making $600 a month payments for the next year. I had no clue how I was going to make that happen. I just knew that if I let my fear guide me on this one, I would have been flipping a huge bird to the universe. It was giving me exactly on a silver platter what I had been asking for: help, guidance, direction. And so, with my freaking hands trembling, I clicked the submit button, I clicked the enroll button, I spent all the money I had, and I joined that community. And 3 months later, had made back my total investment. The money I hadn't even spent yet on my enrollment. I had made $6,000 in my own business that I had constructed from scratch 3 months before. And it's been ongoing since then. I've evolved a little bit. I specifically these days help high achieving professionals and entrepreneurs navigate their life using astrology, helping to bring them hopefully the same kind of cosmic clarity that it brought to me back in my earlier years. And now some of that's pivoting and some of that's changing as I embark on a book writing journey and a course building journey.
You brought up so many interesting points that I wanted to. I took some notes to what I kind of reflect back on. But that's how I met you, right? When we got together was like about a year ago, I think, right? Somehow I just found your attuned enlightenment website. I think you had a free handout, a cheat sheet, right? On astrology. And so you know how universe, we talked about how just universe gives you what you need at the time. There's no accidents in the universe. And literally, it just popped into my mailbox or something. And I'm like, oh, let me check this out. Who's this person? Right. I think I went to one of those coaching conferences online or something, and maybe you were on there. But I'm like, oh, this, you're really aligned with what I was like looking for at the time. And you did work with professionals. So I was like, oh, I think she can help me. I got lots of stuff that I want to, learn. And then we started working together for about 6 months and learned a lot about myself. And then I found out my birth chart and time was wrong. So I had it rectified by a professional. And it was just one day off and a few minutes off from what you had actually shared with me. Yeah. So it's actually February
That's great
17th.
news. That's
Yeah.
great news.
So it didn't change that much, but it would, a little bit. Right. But yeah,
You
you
were
were
still a Virgo rising?
pretty close. Yeah, still Virgo rising, a Scorpio moon.
Honestly, that's like, well, that's the hardest thing to nail
Yeah,
down. Is
and
that right?
we didn't have all the timelines of my life because this person, they
Right.
rectified
Yeah.
all of that. But you were pretty close. They had said like 8 p.m., but it was 7:04 p.m. So, right. So you were pretty accurate.
Dang, that's good because I'm not formally trained in rectification.
Yeah.
That was kind of one of those things I managed to kind of pick up, but that's great news. I give myself pats for
Yeah,
Patrick
yeah.
on that one.
But yeah, that was one of the big things. And then just how you talk about, spirit, the universe just gives you the things sometimes that you need. And here's that big sign. There's the door. That's the opportunity, right? You just have to walk through it. You don't know how it's going to get done, but it does. So somehow it works out, right? Um, and this is why I've been also doing this work because there's a lot of people are getting, guidance, but they don't really know how to like apply it, right? on their healing and their, journey, the purpose. So I love that. Then you talked about like fears and blocks, right? The limitations,
Mhm.
the not enough, the worthiness, right? I think we all have those, and that's kind of what I kind of specialize in with my hypnotherapy clients, is that we all have these unconscious collective programs or imprints that we've all been passed on. Like, where the heck does that not good enough come from, right? It's layers and layers
Mhm.
of that limiting beliefs that block us from really our full potential. And that's really why this podcast is so important, to help people like just to let go of those, right? And let go of those fears and blocks and beliefs so that you can really live the life that you dream, right? Because we are all have a purpose here to fulfill, I believe. Yeah. Have
Mhm.
a
Mhm.
job, sort of say, so to speak. But it is a grand kind of purpose that, we're all made here for something
It
great,
is
I
a
think.
grand design, and we each ripple into it, and
Hmm,
then the
hmm.
it ripples right back to us.
Yes, yeah. And then you mentioned like the balancing of the feminine and the masculine. I think that all of us need that, but we oftentimes do lose ourselves, especially women. We lose ourselves in relationships, right? And so, a big thing that I'm seeing now is this like divine feminine and goddess energy that's come rising up. I call it, I felt it a lot. I don't know if you felt it like when it was the Black Moon Lilith back on the eclipse
Mhm.
last year. Um, all these females, I'm like, I'm so angry. And it's like a rage inside of me. I don't even know what the fuck this is, but it keeps coming up,
Mhm.
right? And so a lot of that, like going all the way back to indigenous times and the patriarchy, there's just a lot of suppression and anger. And I don't know with you, but I've noticed like a lot of people who are healers spiritually, we do have these blocks and fears because we have been persecuted or suppressed or threatened for, astrology was not in the mainstream, right? As it is now. But
Yuni, I literally, before we jumped on this call, had just been working on that part of my book. I'm literally working on the common misconceptions, and I led that part with a true story that
Mhm,
happened to me when I was early in my studies. And long story short, I had been spending maybe like an hour and a half going back and forth, batting big philosophical, theoretical, kind of like psychological ideas back with someone I had just met at the bar. And then after about an hour and a half of what I'll call smart talk, I was like,
mhm.
okay, cool. Like, I probably can mention that I'm into astrology to this person. And so I did. And then they looked at me, they looked down, they said, oh, I thought you were smart. And then they opened their wallet, took out a 20, put it on the counter, got up and left.
Oh my goodness, really?
Yep.
Oh my gosh.
It was a big bruise. It still kind of is a little bit of a big bruise, right? But like
Um,
a perfect example of exactly what you were just saying. Yeah.
Yeah, there's still a lot of stigma and misconceptions and myths about it. Anyone of us that do this spiritual work, is maybe we're identified as too woo-woo, or we're not. It's not a real science, but it's based on science if you do the research. I even had a similar experience with you. Recently, this person who wanted to help me write a book contacted me from LinkedIn. Apparently they own a, I don't know, publishing something company. And literally I
Mm.
said, well, technically, if you look at my website, it says I'm a hypnotherapist. I work with people to help them unblock their limiting beliefs. And he's like, oh, I just don't believe in hypnotherapy. And I'm like, well, why did you contact me?
Yeah.
I,
Why do you want me to write a book then? Like, you just trying to like get that cake? Like, come on, buddy.
He literally was like, "No, I don't believe in hypnotherapy." I'm like, "Well, a lot of the literature out there says it is supported. A lot of astrology also is support scientifically, you know, astronomy, based." So I was like, there's a lot of like people who are not really educated on what we do. So this is a really good,
They've just absorbed what the zeitgeist has told them to absorb,
yeah,
and I get it. Like, there have been so many times in my own life where I had thoughts or preconceptions that I didn't know exactly where they originated from, just that they were there
yeah,
until I did a deeper dive. Because I haven't met a single person who was skeptical of astrology and then actually did the work to learn more about it who wasn't a convert.
How did you maybe overcome those fears and, blocks for yourself? Because that's, I think, very important for a lot of people to understand. Like, well, there's not maybe just one way, but maybe, what was your process of kind of helping you, take that leap or overcome those fears?
Such a good question. For me, that process, it began like kind of organically. It actually ended up becoming one of my coaching programs
Mm.
and methodologies, but it started when I sat down and I went back over the story I had been telling myself. I kind of like sat down with my personal narrative. I wrote out like what has been my life story to me, like what has my life like looked like up until this point, and then I challenged myself to find the lie. Like what to separate the fact from the fiction, essentially, in my own autobiography by me figure out where I was lying to myself.
Yeah.
And I did that. I sorted it out. I was like, okay, the facts are these are the facts. Like my family was from New York. We moved here when I was to North Carolina when I was 3. I was diagnosed with ADHD at 7. They overlooked the autism. Like those are facts. But then the bits about like I've always been too much. No one's ever fully understood me. Like I always do X, Y, or Z, or no one, like whatever those were. I started to separate them out and I was like, okay, well, how can I make how can I twist them? Like how can I haven't ever used it formally outside of like my own business, but like I got a PR degree. How do I spin this narrative?
Right.
Essentially was how I asked what I asked myself. I was like, okay, so that's been my hero's journey up until now. What's gonna happen next in the plot? I started to ask myself, kind of like my favorite Disney movie is Hercules. And there's the whole opening, like 15 minutes, where he's an outcast. He doesn't belong. He can't do anything right. Where will I belong? He sings a wonderful song. And then, boom, things start to click into place. Then he's a demigod. And then he's a hero on a mission, on a journey with a purpose. And then it all makes sense why he didn't fit in, And I kind of like hero journeyed myself
Yeah.
and sat down and did like that work and then was like, okay, where does this leave me now?
Mhm.
Like the past is not where we're going back to. Like we don't belong there in any
Yeah.
way. Like we don't want those patterns back again. So how can I start showing up to be my own hero? Essentially, like what are the steps I need to take? How to like little by little, it was not an overnight thing, and still continuous. I mean, conscious evolution is a never-ending game that we play here on Earth. And so that was really part of the initial snowball. I started to get my priorities straight. I started to like pay attention. I made tons of lists. I had so many lists at that time in my life of like, what was I putting my energy into? What was I putting my time into? And what did I actually prefer to put it into? And then I started to also kind of be like, after I kind of went through my life narrative and was like, how am I going to be my own hero? I was like, what do I do with this story I have? What is a way that I can leverage this into something meaningful? And then at that point I was kind of like, that's when I got to do astrology. I
Mhm.
have to do it for real. Like I have to. And didn't feel like a choice at that time. Well, I guess actually let me amend
Oh,
that statement. It did feel like a choice at that time, but the choice was do or die.
yeah.
I kind of like really made myself look starkly at which life do you want to keep living? And we've worked together. We go over your story. We go over your narrative. We say, what is the reoccurring pattern, the reoccurring thoughts, the recurring beliefs that keep showing up, and how can we change our perspective on it? How
Mhm.
can we just like tilt the kaleidoscope a little bit and
Right.
see what kind of new images we get?
And I like your reference, the hero's journey, which is, Joseph Campbell's story you can even go back to the archetypes of, but it's and astrology is the archetypes of the energy that's all within us that at one in particular moment, right? Or it's within us, all the energies, maybe not showing up at the same time. But I think you did a um workshop on archetypes, right? As well,
Hmm.
right? In
I
astrology.
did.
Yeah. And that really was helpful in learning like, oh, what's the energies that we all have to access. And we all do have willpower and choice. I think that hero's journey is the empowerment, journey for all of us, especially I think for women who have felt disempowered, right? Or people in general. But yeah, I love that. We all have choice. And I think we sometimes forget that. And when we start feeling powerless and helpless, right? Like, oh my God, my life sucks. What am I gonna do, right? But yeah, I love that analogy and that journey. You do have to kind of go in the dark night of the soul, but I think it's like these are your gifts. Like you get these gifts, and I think Joseph Campbell calls them something else, but I like to think about gifts. Like even our struggles, like our gifts. Like your autism and ADHD, I feel like those are. I work a lot with clients that have that diagnosis, and it's interesting that they've learned how to use those gifts to help themselves and help others. So it is really powerful when you see that. Love that. All right, so thank you for that. Yeah, I love how you are really true and honest and raw about your journey. It's like it's awesome. Um, Anything else maybe that you feel like you've seen maybe pattern wise, or you just kind of more downloads we're talking about, like any other things that you'd like to talk
Oh,
about that you
yeah, there are a few things about 2025 I could probably stand to share. Buckle up, everyone, not in a necessarily an intimidating way, but if you've been hearing it, there's a reason. If you've been hearing it, if you feel like it's been like, shut up with 2025, there's a reason we keep saying it, right? We're not
right?
just out here blowing smoke. It's a very pivotal point in consciousness, in human consciousness, in history, in space time, whatever perspective you want to take.
Mm-hmm.
I have little goosies just popped up when I said that.
Yeah.
The echoes. But yeah, we're in for quite a ride here. And while there are a lot of very cool thematics that are coming into play in the next 12 months, well, specifically the next like 7, we have some cool thematics that are shaping up. Like objectively sounds neat, like Pluto and Aquarius, power to the people, to the collective, like sounds really nice, like a transformation, that's Pluto, of perception, Aquarius, like super cool, yay. Well, 20 years from now,
Yeah. You gotta go
we're,
down to the
we're
underworld.
gonna have Saturn move into Aries. We're going to have Neptune move into Aries. We're going to have Uranus move into Gemini. I don't even know offhand the last time. Literally all 10 planets shifted signs because 3 of these 10 take at least 84 years to go around the zodiac. Like it's crazy how slow they are. And yet we've coincided at a moment in time when we're having every single energy that we possibly could have shift into new storylines that we can in the next 7 months. So it's going to be a really acute time of change, and it's going to happen hard and fast. It's already starting to happen a little harder and a little faster than I initially thought.
Yeah.
But it's also has a lot of potential. On the collective level, I'm going to be honest with y'all, it looks a little rocky for a little bit. But on a personal, individualized level, this is going to activate different parts of life for different individuals in different ways. So this could very well unstick something that's been stuck for you as an individual. This could be the kickoff of a major project, of a major initiative, of a major pivot in your life. right? Like there could be a lot of momentum that comes from some of these dynamic changes that are truly personally super motivating. And still remember that that is happening in a broader challenge point. You know, like you might be challenged and rise to your personal challenge and be like, fuck yeah, I'm gonna start a podcast. Hell yeah, I'm gonna go write a book. Hell yeah, I'm gonna like launch off into this. I'm gonna change my major. I'm gonna go get a doctorate in whatever thing out of left field pops into your head. But notice that all of those examples I just gave all come with a lot of work. Like they all come with a lot of effort. So yes, there are amazing changes available to all of us. Yes, there are very challenging conditions under which they may appear. Right. So we're not like doomed by the astrology. We're never doomed by the astrology. But this is definitely not a year to sit by and let things just happen. Right.
Right,
Like
right.
take control of your life, take control of your direction.
Mhm.
Because if you go and sit in some default settings, these are pretty
Yeah.
vibrant ones. Let's say like
Mhm.
that.
No, definitely. I kind of felt that for the last few months, well, especially, with the election and everything, but people, a lot of changes, but I think positive too. Um, so yeah, I love how you share that. But like, yeah, a lot of people that I've talked to say, yeah, my previous astrologer was saying like, yeah, it's kind of my chart is like a doomsday, or it's a very negative perspective on their chart, and I'm like, no, this is you always
No,
have choice.
always.
Yeah, and that changes the trajectory often. It's not
Of
your,
everything, of literally every single thing. Your ability to observe what's happening, both internally and externally,
right.
to synthesize that into intentional meaning,
Hmm.
and then to respond back out into the world. Like, that's what makes the whole thing go round. There's those kind of three things: how you process it, how it shows up, and then the feedback loops that you create with your awareness, with how you then choose to show up, to react, to not react.
Yeah, and
It's what the sun
intention
does
is
in astrology. It's what Leo represents. It
right.
is that point of awareness of, aha, there's a light. Like, look at me. Watch me do this.
And I think the biggest like takeaway I got from like the astrology was like, because what I do a lot of shadow work, inner child work, and it does show you your shadows, right? The parts of us that are really needing to look at, like that shine, this that needs a light shined on it to be able to kind of help rise, help elevate ourselves. So that intention is really important, and looking at yourself. And something interesting, like a lot of people are doing, I call it spiritual bypassing, emotional bypassing,
Oh,
where like, you know what?
don't even get me started on
Live in
that.
la la
Yeah.
land, and I don't have to do the work. I don't have to do anything. But no, I don't think that's true. But
No, a parasite to like the true work that goes on inside of these fields, honestly. I'm sorry if that's a little harsh, but like that's exactly the mentality that I don't want to see here in these spaces. Like,
Mhm.
no.
Yeah, you still have to do, your inner work, the self-reflection, and I think that's what all these different tools are really good at doing, or helping us with. So, any last thoughts or anything else you'd like to share? Or maybe tell us how people can find you.
Yeah, absolutely. You can find me at www.attunedalignment.com. And that's my website, obviously. That's my business, Attuned Alignment Astrology. And on there, you can find different one off readings at different focuses and time lengths. But I also offer the cosmic coaching, which is how I met Yuni. where we work together over a course of several months with your chart to really dig in deep to what are your cosmic patterns? What are your cosmic trajectories? How can you leverage your awareness to help you make more informed decisions as you navigate these ups and downs? Because it's going to keep going up and down. It's a cycle. It's going to keep spinning. But
Yeah.
your awareness, and I honestly can't underline it enough. It's everything. If you can attune your mind, you can align your life. Like that's my little motto, my little catchphrase there. But it's real. Astrology is real as a phenomenon and
Mhm.
as a self-transformation tool and a self-reflection tool. And so I would love to work with you.
Yes.
Come join me for a workshop. I have several free workshops that I have on my website as well.
All right. So I wanted to just share too, like some of the, I guess, revelations that we had when we were working together. Of course, I didn't know at the time, but Aquarius, and I'm an Aquarius sun, um, was about detaching, law of detachment. And I
Mm-hmm.
think during those eclipses last September,
Mm.
October, was when we were working together, and I was like, wow, there were like sudden endings and sudden beginnings, right? So it was interesting that we got a lot of like insight about, oh, it shows in my chart, this is what I'm supposed to be doing, like, learning to detach, learning to let go, and learning to let go with love, right? Unconditional
Mm-hmm.
love, and not holding on to resentments and hurts. And so I just want to thank you that helped me kind of make those connections much faster with astrology. But of course, I still had to do the work. I still had to do the
Right.
energetic and emotional work to work through it and allow that healing process to happen. But it was really insightful for sure.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much. I'm so glad that you acknowledged too, because if you didn't, I was going to spin it back at you that you did the work. Because
Yeah.
this happens a lot. My clients are like, "Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you for your guidance. You helped me see it, da da da." But like, that's all I did. All I
Yeah.
did was give
Well, you showed
you
the
the
reflection in the
reflection.
mirror. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, exactly. You did the deep looking.
yeah.
You did the computations of what the
Mhm,
hell does that mean for me? What do I want it to mean for me? And
mhm,
that is where the magic happens. It's
exactly.
always starts within.
Mhm. But it's a good self-reflection, tool to help us to kind of rise and become that full, potential that we all are here to do. So I really want to thank you. This has been really exciting. I love to hear your story and your journey.
Much love and gratitude for tuning in to the Unique Mind podcast. I hope today's episode gave you new insights and tools to support your healing and wellness journey. If you enjoyed this conversation, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who might benefit. You can also reach me via my website at uniquecounseling.com, and that's unique with a Y. Until next time, stay curious, stay mindful, and keep exploring your unique mind. This podcast is for educational and informational purposes only. While I am a doctor, PhD, this podcast does not create a doctor-patient relationship, and the information shared should not be considered medical or psychological advice. Always consult a licensed healthcare provider before making any decisions regarding your health.